today's Cracking Natural Capital, Making the Case for Corporate Action to Value Nature's Assets. My name is Victoria Knowles, and I look after the Managing Sustainability Group here at 2 Degrees. I'm delighted to welcome the presenters today. Michelle Pinsky, the Nature Conservancy, Tim Menon, Consultancy Services, Vidal Garza, FEMSA, Mormon, Danone Brazil. Stevens from Disney was originally part of this presentation, but she's unable to make it today. After the presenters, we'll have about 15 to 20 minutes at the end where you can ask questions. Before we begin, I'd just like to remind you all that you can submit questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A box in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Type in your question and press send. We'll wait until the end to answer as many as we can. If you have any technical difficulties during the presentation, use the chat box on the right-hand side and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So without any further delay, I'd like to hand over to Michelle, who will get us started on today's presentation.
Well, thank you, Victoria, and thank you for 2 Degrees. It's great to have everyone join us today. Welcome. This is a webinar to support the launch of the new Natural Capital Business Hub, which just launched last week. And to have the 3 leaders from companies with us today that Victoria mentioned. They're going to each share some of the work that they've been doing to integrate natural capital into their business and their services. And that's Simon, the head of Eco-Sustainability Services at Poços Consultancy Services, the director of the FEMSA Foundation, Dr. Gar, and Mauro Homan, who's the sustainability manager for Danone Brazil. All 3 of these companies and many others have been working with us to shape this initiative. And I just want to extend some thank yous to Nir and his team at Poços Consultancy, who actually built the hub in kind. Corporate Eco Forum, Amy O'Meara is on this webinar, and she really visioned and guided the development of the hub, and she and her team have just been incredible, really are responsible for making this happen. And also the Natural Capital Coalition and all of its members who have really helped guide its development. We've had over 41 companies participating in the idea of the hub and actually contributing cases. So it's just efforts that we hope will grow over time. With a little bit of background for those of you who may be newer to the concept of natural capital. And what by that is really the wealth of value that exists in healthy natural ecosystems in natural environments around the globe. And that capital produces for our global economy tens of trillions of US dollars worth of free goods and services. Things like our air and water, ensuring we have a continued water supply, and abundant supplies of raw materials and commodities that we depend on our supply chain, fertile and good soil to grow crops, defending our property and our people from storms, fires, and floods, and much, much more. These really are the life of our global economic system. And more and more are realizing how much they impact, but also really depend on these services. And just as you might manage and watch commodity prices for cotton or for aluminum, companies are now finding they really want to understand water or pollination services and bees in a similar way. Just who's the environment and water for Coca-Cola famously said, watersheds are the first step in our supply chain, an indicator of how essential the natural sources of water were to their product and to their business. And companies are experiencing resource scarcity, a water disruption, a social disruption, a shift in where some of their core materials come from. They're looking for ways to look at nature as an aspect, or look at it as something that they follow the price of, and integrate this into their balance sheets, their and their decision making. Investors are asking companies more and more to disclose and to match how they're managing and accounting for the new changes that we're seeing and dependency on natural resources. So we're seeing companies get much smarter about this and have come up with some great techniques to help them manage the potential business risk from natural capital. To begin to understand how their business models depend on natural capital and what they can do to manage that and invest in it to ensure that they have it and can depend on it and don't have disruptions or loss of quality or quantity. On the other hand, they're actually also seeing added opportunities. And you'll, into the hub, you'll see some examples there of companies that have realized some real upside from managing natural capital or better understanding what's changing in the external world. And this has led to them to develop new products and services. So there's opportunity here to manage costs and prevent business disruption, reducing risk, as well as find the upside of new products and services, improving your brand or bringing new products and services to market. So we're seeing top-line benefits for companies. It started is still challenging. For all of us who work in businesses, we're constantly trying to make the business case and justify the cost and take real risk when we try something new. This can help provide a resource or find your way through those questions and challenges that you can face. I have several companies here to show you the way and give you a couple of their examples, which is really the spirit of the hub, is collaboration, sharing, and learning from each other. I'm actually going to ask Victoria to enable me to be the presenter and share my screen with you all. I'll be able to give you a little demo of the hub. Great. Hopefully everyone can see the new Natural Capital Business Hub homepage here. It's all coming through quite well. You'll see over on the right here, there's a little video that's a great way to and get an introduction to this. It's now being inspiring to others, and you're helping to explain to them what the concept of natural capital is and what really is something to managing risk and opportunity in a business. The hub will be a collaborative space for companies and organizations to come together to from each other and to help them launch initiatives in their own companies. So it seeks to answer the 6 questions here on the main screen. How natural capital is material to my business? How are leading companies addressing natural capital, and what are the benefits that they're seeing? So why are they doing it? Most effective business solutions, methods, and tools. A variety of ways to approach this, and there's a lot of tools and people to help you, but how do you pick what's right for you? How can I natural capital targets that really matter? A lot of efforts focus on efficiency in order to save costs, but many of the initiatives you'll see on the hub here are beyond efficiency and realizing greater value. Ways exist to collaborate. So as many people know, a watershed is a very big thing. Most people don't know watershed, but they may completely depend on ensuring a continuous water supply for their factory watershed, or they depend on a wetland for the protection it's providing from the sea and the coast where they're located, but own that. And so some of this takes shared resources and shared things together, or it could be that there's a scientific approach that you could really learn from another group. And so having those together, we're connected for advice and support. And it's actually where 2 degrees really comes in a special community just for people working on this issue. So thanks to 2 degrees for seeing this and meeting that business need. The heart of the hub is really here down in the search, where you can find the case studies and examples that companies are sharing. Not meant to be an exhaustive clearinghouse, so you won't see every case out there. But it is a highly curated one where you see examples, and our hope is that you'll see something that you see either from an industry perspective or from the that you're facing the benefit. So for example, you might want to look at some of the different examples that consumer goods companies are doing, and perhaps some apparel agriculture companies are looking for. And we want to see where those are happening worldwide. And maybe let's just start with reducing some costs. That will go over well with my boss. And so in those sections, you then see results and the cases coming up that meet those criteria. So you'll see a whole variety of companies operating in different ways all around the globe. That's really of this site. A lot of good tools here, business benefits, different ways that companies are finding, reducing risk, cutting costs, enhancing brand reputation, and generating revenue. For the benchmark, you can see a lot more ways to look at what companies are doing. Something that's unique is many of the cases here are actually progress reports. So some are reporting file results and ROI, return on investment, and others really in process. So you're going to see and learn a little bit with them along the way. And they're very open in the cases about the challenges and work that they're doing. In the section, you'll find ways to choose the different tools. There's an interactive version of the Eco for Business tool by World Business Council for Sustainable Development, and the 10 business solutions. So this takes the different types of things that you'll see, the different types of cases and ways that companies are approaching this. And each time you way that you might approach it, there's real case studies you can link right to over here, where you can get into the detail. Just we have the phone, so let's check out the one Danone. You can go through and see the scope of their case study, including really important things like the business rationale, how did they make the business case, what are the detailed implementation steps, and you'll see a really good section in there called challenges. The company will share what was really tough about this and what they learned, and hope that they can save time for you by doing. As you get into the hub, you'll see a whole variety of different examples. There's like companies trying to put a price on water or on carbon that are not typically valued. And one of our speakers who wasn't able to be with us today, Beth Stevens, the Vice President of Corporate Sustainability for Disney, one of the companies has one of the longest running internal carbon accounting processes. And there's been many benefits. It helped really raise awareness about the cost of carbon and cost of energy within the business. It really supported their efforts to reduce their carbon footprint, and support led to significant cost savings. But the big one, and the case that you'll see there, is the way that they use those investments. So a business unit pay a small carbon fee if they exceeded their objectives, and the overall company worked to be more efficient and set larger footprint targets to reduce their footprint over time. They pooled the little fees paid by the business unit, and the pooled fees have now led to over $16 million US investments that Disney has made in removing carbon really at the source, and one of the biggest contributors to carbon emissions from loss of forest, deforestation, and investing in avoided deforestation projects many years now, investing in those globally around the world in some of the areas where the greatest pressure is on our important natural resources. We see a variety of cases about green infrastructure, so companies that are finding that a natural solution, a natural wetland or constructed wetland, natural floodplain can provide cooling or flood control, protection from storms, or ensure continued water supply. It's a good set of examples there. But I'm going to turn it over to our expert companies. So 3 of the companies that have case studies hub are going to share their experience with you today. I'm going to stop sharing my desktop and share it up because our first speaker doesn't have slides. So let me turn it to Samir Menon from Tata Consultancy Services to share about how they are approaching natural capital in their business. Samir?
So, Michelle. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, Michelle, for the introduction. Thank you, 2 Degrees, for the webinar, and also again, as Michelle mentioned, Amy and her team at the Corporate Eco Forum and TNC and Michelle. It's been a real pleasure to work to actually pull the hub together. I don't have any slides, so I'm going to kind of go through 4 of the areas that I want to kind of emphasize here. and my colleagues from FEMSA and Danone are going to talk about some of their specific examples as well. I'll focus a little bit on just an intro from my perspective and why the Tata Consultancy Services was actually interested in this space and why we got involved. I'd like to talk a little bit, emphasize a little bit around metrics and measurement, which I think has been a bit of a bugbear around valuing natural capital for a very long time. And then the last piece and the kind of mention is just as companies embark on this journey, what are some things they need to look out for? And potentially a simple mnemonic to remember how you could potentially use the Natural Capital Business Hub. So let me start with a quick introduction. Almost a decade ago, together with two of my colleagues, Ranjit Bhatakar and Deepak Kriplani, we had started on a project trying to develop natural capital for states in India. And it primarily driven by this call by the less industrialized states in the country who were claiming the advantages that their ecosystem services actually brought to both their states as well as to the rest of the country. But it was very difficult to try and actually demonstrate that, and most people used state domestic product as a way to rank the states. And about a decade ago, we tried to kind of develop the concept with the team. We develop things like TEEP and so forth around the value of fresh water, the value of medical institutions, the value of education, and it really kind of gladdened my heart to see the progress that we've actually made with organizations like the National Capital Coalition, True Cost, and others to actually be able to improve the metrics, measurements, and quantification processes that we've actually brought to the concept of the natural capital. And that's the reason why the Tata Consultancy Services, which is part of India's largest group, the Tata Group, focused around technology, was really interested in terms of the measurements and the metrics part. As there are oft-repeated cliches on this, but it is extremely important to be able to measure both quantitative and qualitative aspects of natural capital, because that's the only way that you're going to be able to value it, you're going to be able to appreciate it, and hopefully you're going to be able to preserve it for future generations. So that's the reason why we were involved, and that reason why we contributed both in terms of developing the hub as well as case studies, and we were able to leverage across the experiences of the entire Tata Group to be able to look at different ways of how we could help in furthering the cause of valuing natural capital. I think two things that companies need to think about as they are embarking on their journey is it is a journey. I think, as Michelle pointed out, a number of these case studies that are on here are not complete examples. They're still work in progress, and they will continue to be work in progress. And I think it's important to realize that we are on an evolution. And I always kind of come back and compare it to financial capital and the progress that we have made on different patterns and different metrics we've used to understand what financial reports of a company mean or what financial reports of a country mean, and the different parameters we've actually developed for it. We're in the starting phase of doing something like that on natural capital, and I think we should be clear about our expectations that we're not you're not going to, again, we're leapfrogging thanks to the learnings we've had, but we're still going through that process. We're still trying to identify what is material. We're trying to identify what is it that we need to measure. We're trying to identify what is it that we need to monitor to ensure that we are truly, valuing the capital appropriately, and also, then protecting it and hopefully enhancing it for future generations. And I think that's an important aspect as you get started with your exercise in this space, is the whole concept of materiality. So I think it is important to understand that you will see the examples that my colleagues are going to identify later in this call as well as on the hub. They all different lenses to know and enhance your existing business. So this isn't, something that is excluded from your business. So it's important to kind of understand what aspects of natural capital that are material to my business, as the first question on the hub identifies, because that's what's going to lead to aspects of how do you improve management, how do you take advantage of new opportunities, what initiatives do you launch, how do you measure the impact of those initiatives. And the most important role that we have to play in this space, those of us who are either believe in the concept or are in the process of being converted to the concept, is to help translate some of these conversations to people in the business, so that it aligns with the work that they're doing. It aligns to the language that they use, whether it is a financial officer from a financial economic perspective, whether it's supply chain or product from a risk management perspective, whether it's a sales organization from an opportunity perspective. And I think these translations are critical for this initial phase of kind of going through the aspects of understanding what natural capital means, what it means for you as a company, and what is it that you can do to help to continue to preserve and protect it for the future. I think this hub is a great initial resource because it has the actual live case studies, lots of interesting tools as mentioned, and if I would kind of wrap up my comments, I would kind of say I hope the hub really drives you to act, because that's an interesting way to think about the three resources that actually exist on the hub. You've got actual case study, live examples, you've got collaboration opportunities, and you've got tools that you could actually use to deploy to get started. So with that, I'll wrap up and hand it back to Michelle, and look forward to answering any questions or queries that you may have. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Samir. We're now going to pass the
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Very much, Michelle, and thank you very much also, Samir, with that presentation from Tata Consultancy, and of course to the community. To talk also in the same line as this proposal was established for the web, but what has been, for example, for a company like PEMSA in Latin America particularly, its commitment to natural capital in particular, but also has been a little bit of the history behind it. I would like us to start, I will move the slides with you to follow this idea. We have 124 years of existence, and the main goal or the main instrumental value of the company has been sharing value. Trying to build this idea of sharing value made us drop the concept of philanthropy a long time ago. So in that aspect, our idea of philanthropy was based on the whole measurement of linking business to audience and on the forces that we use in order to be a company, and also we interact with society in order to be a corporate citizen. And in a sense, the next thing that we do is that we move traditional concept of CSR, of corporate social responsibility, and we forward into this concept that has been very used probably across industries, which is an investment. And using the element in stage 4, we acted in 2008 at Foundation, which I had. And the Foundation was an instrument of social investment of the company. What does it mean? It means that the energy of the company investing in society and investing in nature to be measured and has to be accountable in senses. It's a long way. It's easy, of course, to, as Samir was nicely putting it in his previous intervention, it's an evolution, and it resides on a constant dialogue within the company, but also with all the stakeholders along the company's operations and, of course, work. And that's that you have to identify not only the value that it actually produces to your company, but also the matching interests of society, of business, and of governments. That's why a company like FEMSA, which, as you well know, is the best independent Coca-Cola in the world, and is also one of the biggest shareholders of Heineken Group globally, with also a very important retail chain effort with more than 13,000 outlet stores throughout Mexico and Colombia. That we need to focus, to be very clear on what the social investment should be for a company like ours. In that mission is where we come forward as a foundation, and we define our strategic areas so as a way of linking the social investment to the economy in these two areas: social development of water resources and quality of life. In that aspect, the foundation started by asking the most significant contribution of a coalition of multinational company like FEMSA in those two areas. Those areas have a very important link, of course, to the physical scale, for example, of a resource like water, and on the reputation of our products in the market, quality of life. We decided to go ahead and research. Another element of, I would say, very important for this natural capital hub. It has to comprehend very simple and very clear forward research that's evolving every single day. So we decided, in the terms of water, focus on 3 areas and 3 programs. We found as those three areas as important for the region and are attended very clearly by the government or the society as a whole. We thought first on capacity building and applied research, with any decisions being taken locally. Water, for example, is a local resource that requires better tools, better education, better skills. What we thought very important was the lack of access to water and sanitation in communities. It is not ethical for a company to be producing goods and services. The community around it has striving every day for those same resources. So in that sense, the 21st century here on us found that there is a lot of technologies, a lot of good research on how to get very simple, effective, very sustainable tools to communities around Latin America to get to quality water and to sanitation and to hygiene. The area that we thought we could also contribute was precisely what Michelle was talking about in the beginning in the introduction: water conservation. We found that everybody talks about natural resources with respect to water in different manners. Go together to put them in the same arena. What was the solution? Water covers not only regions, political restrictions, governments, or societies. It's the basis in which we live. We depend on a specific watershed for our activities, and its focus attention on the watershed with like research to know exactly how can we improve it. I will focus, if you agree, precisely on the area of water resource and sustainable water resource, and leave quality of life with a new area of FEMSA Foundation in which we are working, based only on how to improve in society capacity to get better education in nutrition. We think it's one of the biggest flaws in our society today, that people know the of nutrition that require a good diet. But I will leave that aside, and I focus today quickly on the events that I was talking. Capacity building and applied research, we were able to do it through science that built a water center for Latin America and the Caribbean. Today, this center is producing research, but it's also teaching water operators throughout Latin America with online courses and also in presence courses how to make invoicing, how to treat clients, how to think about the water system integrally, and to be their administrators of their operations in the region. And Water Sanitation is a joint effort that we did with Millennium Water Alliance and with the Cola Company throughout 5 countries to get us to water sanitation and hygiene, partly for 110,000 people. And stop just here also to mention, as a foundation and as part of a company, meant essential. We need and we should be accountable for every single resource that we use in this investment so that we can get that return social investment to the company back. I would like to focus on the last one, if you agree, as I wrap up this part of my presentation, and think a little bit more on the shed and particularly on water capital. Things that we really think is the only way to attend the watershed conservation is to do it strategically, in an active way, with all the actors that are part of the watershed. In this sense, to communicate what the watershed is suffering, what the basin is suffering, in order to get action immediately into it. Then we deal together with the IDB, the Global Facility and Nature Conservancy, back in 2011, this one, the Latin American Waterfront Fund. It's an active way of having an evergreen fund, because water that sheds can be simple or can be attended by mode or by fashion. They have to be attended constantly. They have to be attended with science, with clear understanding on what are the benefits being produced by the watershed and its services to the community, and we have to do it with imagination. The benefits of water funds are very clear, and I point some of them in this slide. They are the activities of society towards the watershed. Today in Latin America, local government, state governments, federal governments, they all want to do conservation, not focus. Just help get that focus in the picture. And is they guarantee the sustainability of the interventions, because of course this resource is tested every year as an evergreen fund. And the is that make business sense. Why? The benefits of better infiltration guarantees and is measurable the amount of good water that watershed is to provide to community. And in I mean everyone, factories, industries, governments, and of course, agriculture. So it makes that important essence to influence public policy by improving and coordinating those investments towards the watershed. This is the results are already coming. These water funds are already producing direct benefits. In Chiapas, for example, in Mexico, one agriculture that was collecting in its part of work milk is now producing cheese and is now increasing the production because of the benefits generated by the work done in the watershed. So I'm up with my 8 minutes. So I will probably stop here to let the rest of the participants continue. But I want to thank also for the invitation and the opportunity to share all ideas. I believe almost 60 participants are here in this webinar organized 2 degrees. Thank you very much.
Jane, well, yeah, I bet we'll have some questions and you'll be able to cover any of the points that you didn't quite cover yet. Let me turn it now to Poços from Danone, Brazil. Thank you.
Okay, hope you are listening. So very much for the invitation. So it's a great opportunity to us to share our ideas, our beliefs. So thank you very much, 2 Degrees, to organize it, and TNT invite us and share a little bit what we thinking to do as Danone Brazil. My name is Mauro Homem. I'm the Sustainability Manager for Danone Brazil, and I'm here to share a little bit what we are doing regarding the biodiversity management in Brazil and for the company. So first of all, we have the need for conservation of ecosystems to develop quality products. So Danone is committed to developing strategies and affirm sustainability commitments since 2000. But in 2007, sustainability became 2 goals for the company, and we published some goals to reach, and we incorporate some topics such as emissions, water, sustainable agriculture, and diversity. Here, much focus on the biodiversity plan and what we have done in the last 2 years. Okay, so this process means that the company was looking for something more pragmatic approach that reflects our concern for the environment and help us to balance the business and the biodiversity. It was difficult to understand how can we answer to the questions of the business coming from the biodiversity. So look at for some which really match to the business. So in a partnership with the Institute, it's a brilliant non-governmental organization. We implement the corporate ecosystem first review, the ESR methodology, shared with WRI, several supply chain components of one of our most popular food products in Brazil with the Danone brand. So this brand all over the world. In Europe, it's called Danonino, and it's a really important brand for Brazil because it's taking care about our children, so it's linked to the future. It's the second most important brand for the company in Brazil. So we provided one study focused on this brand and on the chain, the value chain of this product. So focus on our milk and strawberry chain, and also in our factory, the main important factory that we have, which is in Poços, Caldas city, Minas Gerais state of Brazil. It represents more or less 90% of the volume for Brazil, so it's really important. So our factory, we understood that our main dependence was to the river, so the water resource that we use it, and we take this water and use it for the manufacturing process. We try to improve our waste.
Yeah. Mauro, did we lose you? Able to step in here?
Here, but Mauro, I think we lost him.
Are you to continue the presentation from this point? Okay, is it possible for you to give the presentation? See Laura. So
If you want to start early with the questions.
yeah, I think that we'll start with the questions. We do have a few coming in, so thank you all for submitting those questions. Pedro, please feel free to step in with the Danone Brazil perspective if you can on these. Questions that came in about we'll around. So
Are you listening to me?
Yes, Mauro, are you back with us?
Okay, so come back in for the strawberry, okay?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Oh, okay. So strawberries, we make the study that shows that the pollinators were declining in the strawberry crop. And this is why they are so fundamental for the strawberry chain. They are not essential for having the strawberry itself. Our point is, these pollinators could bring a better productivity and the pest control. So, of course, it's really linked with the biodiversity of the agriculture. And the strawberry is one of the most important parts of this Danonino product. So, it's important for our business to keep good, sustainable agriculture for strawberries. So, we have started this month a pilot farm to comprehend how we could help farmers with management practice and also improve the biodiversity on the production of the crop. The intention is to check the results and see if we have in good management skills for producers, we can improve, first of all, the productivity of the crop, then to improve as well the biodiversity of the region. So talking about a really important biodiversity spots in Brazil, and we're going to get better results with this campaign. You're not listening to me?
Yes, we can hear you going.
The last page was related to milk supply. Of course, we are a dairy industry, and it's really important to have good understanding in the milk supply chain. In terms of milk production, we understand that in some areas, some farmers and pasture management are related to a decrease of the local biodiversity. Our intention is to create a pilot farm to study how to increase the local biodiversity linked with the productivity. So as well, we understand that the deforestation of the farmers can be a problem for us in case. We can understand that it's a problem regarding to the productivity of milk and also the biodiversity itself. So we are isolating some farms and studying and measuring how can we implement good actions to restriction and to have a better resource management in the farmers. So it's really important for business to keep the evolution we are having in the country and milk sourcing, but also to guarantee that the biodiversity of this region will supply ecosystem service for the future. The ESR project provides insights into the interaction with local ecosystem and also depended the company's understanding of the operational winners working its supply chain. Here is to guarantee the sourcing for future, to have a better service management for business, so to link these to the communication for the brand. So we intend to do this as a top line value in order to empower the brand into this communication and to make it sustainable for the future. So we wanted to share, and I'm more than available for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Thanks much, Mauro. We really appreciate that overview and that level of detail. That's fantastic. I'll be able to mute and line now. Thank you very much to all of our presenters. I hope that gave people a bit of a variety of how companies are approaching this. You come from a different industry. Hopefully you'll find an example from your industry or an example for your issue on the you'll see cases about companies who are trying to manage their owned and operated assets differently. You'll see examples like the two you just heard about people that are about looking at supply chain and issues in the supply chain. And as we said, there's some also about top line value and market offerings, environment profit and loss, statements, internal carbon and water accounting. There's a variety here. We have questions coming in, so thank you everyone for those. I'll just address a couple and then I want to turn to our speakers here. The quick question about Twitter and whether we'll be sharing more information. We do have a hashtag NatCap Hub. We've also been using the hashtag NatCap, and you can look up Amy or Michelle Lipinski, any of the others, the companies. So we have been sharing out. We've gotten some media and some articles, so you can continue to follow us. And we'll be growing. There's also a question about how to assist companies to share their stories. And this is our first launch, so we're really open to having other companies join us to expand this and add additional case studies. And there's contact info on the hub, and we can work with you. We do follow a case study template and can collect all that information with you and help guide you through how to complete that information. That leads to an interesting question that came in around metrics. And so I wanted to give each of the speakers a chance to add a bit more information about how they've approached metrics for this. We did question directly about whether the case studies include metrics and how those are presented. And you'll see when you get into it, there's a whole section on metrics in each of the cases. And it does vary. So remember, some of these are in process, so they might be managing things like how many suppliers are doing source water protection plans at this point, or how many lines of their business have they done an ecosystem services review or environmental profit and loss statement for. So some of them, if you process metrics, you will see case studies that are more completed that were actually perhaps ensuring a change in assets. So some companies that switch from gray infrastructure or traditional man-made approaches and to green infrastructure or natural solution approaches, they can share their NPV as sometimes they'll go into details of what was the comparison between the two options of estimated and then actual real, CapEx savings, OpEx savings, carbon efficiency, energy savings, carbon emissions reductions, and other novel system benefits. So you'll see a variety based on what they were trying to address. Let me ask our speakers, do you have other comments or recommendations for companies as develop their metrics, or anything you'd like to share about the metrics you used in your cases?
Hi. So here, let me take a quick attack, Michelle. As you can imagine, metrics is something that's obviously very close to our heart. And I think what's important that you rightly identified, these metrics will differ, and they will be both qualitative and quantitative. And sometimes the qualitative metrics become a little bit more difficult to measure and manage. But I think what's important is, even though Vidal had the great example around water and water funds. But again, what water means for a company like FEMSA is very different from what water means even for a company like Danone. And I think it's very important to to identify very clearly the metrics in your specific example. So I think what's great about this hub is it talks about the various different ways that people have approached these metrics across, even when they're dealing with the same aspect, maybe water or waste. So I think the materiality point is extremely important, and some method of measurement, some method of as a objective measurement that you can do, whether it is qualitative or quantitative, I think is important, because I think as soon as you start the metrics start becoming overly derived, as I call it, you start losing credibility in my mind. That's been my experience.
Thank you. And actually, we've got a variety of questions. So let me turn to Dr. Vidal Garza. We have questions about, this looks fantastic, this is helpful, but how do I talk to my CFO? Do you use different language when you're talking to your business colleagues or to your CFO? What resonates most from the side and with your CFO?
A very important question. I would say that for one is that following a specific objective every year. We call in our company critical factors, language that they speak. They see what is specific, for example, reduction in water stress we're going to get from all of our plants or from specific actions of our plants. when you're able to link that corporate means of reducing the water stress areas or trying to help operations on water stress areas, and you are able to design the that are going to be set for the community to do precisely that, put to a critical factor the best way. The other I suggest is in my board of FEMSA Foundation, one of the board members is the CFO. So it is important that that all companies will think about that as an option of having particularly on board the management, the top management into the action. We meet 2 times a year, one to review actions, and second is to approve programs, projects, and I will say that those meetings are like PhD dissertation. They're difficult, they're tough, and you have to be prepared for every single question that will arise. My experience is that be prepared to have the measurements that you're looking for and the fundamentals of it. And I agree with Samir, you're able to put it very cleanly. For example, water concern means what? Well, it means the prevention of flooding, but how do we measure it? Well, we measure it in terms of the amount of rainfall that it do not fall in the watershed because we're working on it on the oil. And this long-term view, but it's measurable. Infiltration. If we do infiltration, that's a very clear measurement of the amount of quality water that we eventually will have. And there is, of course, research going around to how much water can you infiltrate to help those, and then, of course, measure. So, but in a very simple way, and having your CFO in the board of your investment decisions is clear.
Great, fantastic. And with this launch last week, we heard a lot of comments about how you need to speak in language the CFO uses. So talk about risk, talk opportunity, make sure there's a really direct link to your business. So there's a lot of companies now starting to use the water funds that Vidal spoke so eloquently about because they've had a water disruption to their business or because they're concerned about securing water flow and they know this investment, they can actually measure the changes in water quality and quantity and ensure that water keeps coming into their facility and really estimate that in dollars and cents. So thank you. Mauro, if I could turn to you with a question. We have a question about what types of decisions this type of work can pertain to. And obviously there's a real variety on the hub because companies all sorts of different decisions. So we've tried to provide examples of that. But would you just say a bit more about the types of decisions where you think incorporating natural capital can be helpful to your business?
Okay. In effective, what we notice is that we need to make a real clear link to the business. First, we must show that the the ecosystem service are really important to the future of our business. So we are making the matrix, or when we are talking to our board, we are intending to always show that if we don't take care about the natural capital right now, we're going to have trouble in terms of sourcing or in terms of efficiency or in terms of quality for the future. So I'll say that our intention over this study and for the future is always to take a look in what really matters for the company. So we see, for instance, one brand, we try to see its value chain, what really means to the consumer. So it must be important for the company and it must be a good argument to be discussed with the consumer in the future. I think this is what we are trying to do all the time. And the most difficult aspect is to turn this into real numbers which we can discuss and follow up in the So, and I think it's what we are doing right now. We primarily study and now we intend to show the results and to compare it in the future.
Thank you. And we've heard, as we were talking with the companies who were preparing their case studies for the hub, we often heard them talk about how they would actually do a bit of a simple model to cost out which to go down this approach. Here's what could happen, and this is what it could cost us. And if we were to have some kind of disruption where there was a drought and we couldn't get the agricultural product we needed, or we needed to shift production, or cotton prices went up because of a drought, or a plant was shut down for 24 hours, you can actually cost out those losses and compare those scenarios, and then look at the cost and of the actual investment you're making, and do the actual return on investment, and pick the NPV of making investments in a watershed to ensure water supply continues, or exploiting constructed wetland as a water treatment solution for either your pre-treatment or your industrial post-treatment needs. So ways to use your traditional money and financial projection tools that you use in your business planning every day. We might have one last question about social metrics. A question a bit about reporting. So I wonder, we've covered metrics a bit. I will just make a note on that in order to come up with any of these, if you do valuation of natural capital, it does incorporate the value to the community and to social issues. So those are important as well. Just a final comment about how you are reporting on this. There were a couple of questions about reporting. Just one quick comment.
Michelle, we have an annual report, of course, we follow with import standards, and I would like to just point that we have been developing, and with a lot of other companies, our rate of return. Is that you provide, for example, water access sanitation to a community. What is in their income? For example, not going to spend time getting for water, or by using time, or actually education days or working days. So we were to measure, and those are a big discussion right now, and I would like to add with Samir's idea and Mauro. I think one of the points is we develop those, the turn exactly of the community. And we've on the social of investment in terms of amount of resources that now those communities have in addition that didn't have before.
Perfect. So we're going to wrap up now. It's almost the top of the hour. So I just would like to thank 2 Degrees for hosting this, and again for hosting the new community where you'll be able to talk amongst each other and ask these types of questions to the community. Many, many thanks to Corporate Eco Forum and Amy O'Meara on the line. They've really been leading and championing this and doing such incredible hard work to make it happen. Thank you to each of our presenters today, Samir, Vidal, and Mauro. And please, please go through the hub, look at where you see the details, the business case, the metrics, all the things you're looking for. There's a spot for you to contact us, and we welcome your feedback and your suggestions for improvement. This in 6 months, so as you can imagine, there's so much more we could do with it. And we certainly invite you to submit and share your case studies and experiences with companies so that we can all continue to learn from each other. And I wish you all successful businesses while you're managing your natural capital as an asset and helping to manage your risk and realize the new business opportunities. So this is Lipinski with the Nature Conservancy. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you to all the presenters today. The recording of this webinar and presentation slides will be archived on the 2 Degrees platform. If you do think of any more questions around natural capital, feel free to put them up, and we'll try and get one of the presenters to respond. I hope you found it informative and enjoyable, and hope you'll be able to join us for our next webinar on carbon recording systems on Tuesday, 25th of March. More details of this can be found on the 2 Degrees platform, but do make sure you check out the hub. It's really, really great. So thank you, and I hope to speak to you all again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.